I think a few messages that I would like to send. One is that institutions are responsible for this. Institutions need to understand that these are issues that are crucial to the success of those people that they have in their universities, whether they be staff, faculty, administrators, or students, that these issues can make or break someone's career as well as someone's involvement within higher education, and that they're responsible and need to think through how to address work-life balance. Also, that these policies don't necessarily cost a lot of money. In many ways, they're very easy to implement. They're cheap, and all they do is require some flexibility and some commitment on behalf of the institution. And that these types of policies can make a huge difference in recruitment and retention, as I've already mentioned. But I know from experiences that I've had and experiences from other faculty that I talk to across the country, is that when you feel as if you're in an environment where you're being supported as an academic parent, or you're being supported when you have some work-life issues that are overwhelming your job, that it goes a long way in your own commitment to the institution, as well as you feeling as if you can continue to be successful. And finally, we're a new generation of faculty, and we see that in the literature where new faculty value work-life balance more so than the previous generation of faculty. And so our institutions need to think about adopting to this generation and trying to help them be successful.
I would just add that it's just, we've been emphasizing throughout that it's really just an issue of cultural change.
Right.
We're going from an academy that was predominantly dominated by men, predominantly was really expected to separate your two responsibilities, your work and your home lives, to really one where folks want to integrate them both, where men and women are both taking an active role in their parenting and their child care responsibilities. And so institutions...
The Chronicle of Higher Education is now rating some colleges when it comes to work-life balance. And so I think this is coming to a fore as an issue more and more nationally, and that the discourse is getting to the point where I'm hoping that there is more of an emphasis, and that this book can provide some guidance. Well, we take, I think the approach that we take is one that is very systemic, that not only addresses the hard and fast policies that are required, but also that focus on a cultural shift. And so when we talk about, I think of it sort of as a toolbox or a package of policies, and at the same time a larger cultural shift. So policies that are around, some classic ones we see is stopping the tenure-clock, policies that allow for maternity and paternity-leave paid, not the minimum of FMLA, which is 12 weeks unpaid. We also think about issues around child care, providing stipends and or a child care facility that's accessible and that's also of high quality on campus. What are some others?
Reduction in teaching duties after the birth of a child, because you don't want to provide leave, maternity, paternity, or parental leave, and then have the parent come back and just say, okay, you need to get right back into everything you're doing. So the University of California system, for example, has a very progressive parental leave policy and a reduction in teaching duties. So for either parent who has substantial caregiving responsibilities, they get a release from teaching duties for anywhere from a quarter to a semester to a year. And it actually increases if somebody has multiple births. So if they have twins or triplets, they get additional leave.
Also things like lactation rooms, facilities for lactating mothers, startup money for research that would allow an individual to be provided some money after they return from work, after maternity or paternity leave, to restart up that research agenda. Counseling and support groups, I think, are crucial for both parents and individuals who have aging parents.
We talked about child care on campus, but there's also emergency backup child care. So if somebody, they wake up in the morning and their child is sick, and they have to go, you can't bring a sick child, so, well, you should not bring a sick child to a child care center. And so
they won't let you.
No. Some campuses you can call, and they will have somebody show up at your door with games and crayons, and they'll take care of the kid for the day. So it's just things like that. It's really paying attention to finding a way to integrate all aspects of an individual. individual's life, from their academic and their work lives to their home lives, because they're not separate spheres, they're integrated, and one's success in one really influences one's success in the other.
And I think this all applies for staff as well. I think we focus a lot on faculty because that's what's come to the fore as the national conversations around these issues. But when it comes to staff, these are similar policies that need to be, there needs to be a cultural shift. One of the most crucial roles for a woman or a man who's adopting or having a child, or who has elderly parents and needs to take some time off of work, maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2 weeks, maybe it's a semester, is the department chair. That individual serves in a crucial role to mediate between the faculty person and the dean or whomever else can make that kind of decision. And we need the department chairs to have buy-in and to understand and to, as I always say, it's to sort of get it. They need to be able to grant these policies and understand why they're appropriate. You know, we've seen in the literature where there's women who refuse to use stopping the tenure-clock policies because they're afraid of the stigma. We need department chairs and our institutions to have a cultural shift to understand that work-life balance is important, which then leads to, I think, a modification of tenure and promotion expectations.
On a campus that doesn't have these sort of policies, is there a model of how one can achieve this kind of cultural shift?
I think it does come from the leadership. I mean, as Jaime is saying, in terms from the department chair, but I think it also comes from even higher up. It needs to come from a buy-in from the central administration, because you can't have sort of willy-nilly policies. You can't have somebody in one department negotiating for something, because it really does depend upon the whims of who's in power. So it has to start, I think, from the top. There can also be grassroots activism, for lack of a better word, to really agitate for change and get things on the agenda. But again, unless those in power are interested in seeing those implemented as change mechanisms, it won't happen.
And I think some of the work I've done is on grassroots activism on campuses, particularly the work that faculty and staff do. And that work isn't related to family-friendly policies, but that kind of grassroots activism, that kind of bottom-up change can take decades. And we're looking at issues that are occurring today. We're looking at women and men having situations that are impacting their success today. And I could provide 10 anecdotes of people's experiences around this issue. And so I think what we need is the leadership to understand and to address this issue so that there can be a quick and systematic change. It doesn't mean it's a cultural change, but at least there will be policies in place that can lead to some cultural change that would occur over time. Graduate students are at the whim of their advisor. So where faculty sometimes feels that they're at the whim of their department chair, graduate students are at the whim of their advisor, and there can be a very clear power dynamic that exists between the advisor and the student. So if we can have policies on that institutional level, then what we can do is provide some protections for graduate students, but at the same time some guidelines for faculty. Some faculty are wonderful and want to help their graduate students who are facing a situation of pregnancy, adoption, sick family members, etc., but don't have guidelines of what they can provide. So having a policy on maybe the provost level or the institutional level that can provide some funds and some guidelines, I think is a huge step forward to helping graduate students stay in their graduate programs and to be successful, and then move into the labor market, whether it be as faculty or in the corporate sector, and really do a lot of wonderful marketing as alumni for those colleges. So I think the dividends are so great for colleges and universities when it comes to graduate students that this is a population they need to start focusing on.